Hello everyone. So today I'm going to explain how we are going to connect is like R2DBC, R2DBC with Spring Boot. This means kind of asynchronous call reactive Spring Boot applications. So this is a kind of like reactive Spring Boot applications that maybe we can connect with any databases like PostgreSQL or in-memory databases. So these are the things. As you know, the reactive applications is getting more popular with the rise of the microservices architecture, right? Because nowadays we are working on those microservice architecture mostly. So reactive applications, mostly the non-blocking kind of things, is mostly used. So to utilize the full potentials of this reactive system, like now we can like recommend to make all our system as a reactive. Now the thing is that making a fully system as a reactive, there's a challenge for connectivity with the Java database connectivity because it's a synchronous and blocking call between this relational database and whatever the application we are means writing nowadays. So those things, this is a kind of challenging. So for addressing these issues, basically uh, there is a one approach actually is there, like kind of we can how we are going to do all those things asynchronously to connectivity with the database. So this is basically called this R2DBC, or we can say reactive relational database connectivity. So after this R2DBC initiatives, the Spring team basically decided to support this R2DBC for this Spring ecosystem, and that is called the Spring R2 database, R2DBC. So in this tutorial, I'm basically going to explain like how you are going to use the reactive applications with Web Flux and with H2 in-memory database. Instead of H2 in-memory database, you guys can use the PostgreSQL. So here basically I am going to explain like how you are going to configure this Spring Data Reactive and how this R2DBC to work with the H2 databases. How we can define the models and the repository interface, because as you know, if we are going to connect with the like any backend system, so for that we need to create some models and then repository for talking with the databases. Then I will also create the REST controller and the HTTP request. Also with that, how you are going to interact with the H2 database, what kind of the properties are going to provide in the properties file. So those I'm going to explain over here. So basically, we can create one Spring Boot project here for making kind of the CRUD operations like fetching, save data, find by ID, and delete or update data. With so that means for that we need to create one like maybe one entities in a database, and then accordingly we can save data, fetch data, update data. So those operations I'll do so that you guys can easily understand like how we are going to connectivity and how those things are basically working. So technology wise, like I am going to use Java 17 and then Spring Boot 3.2, as this is you can see over here 3.2.0. H2 database, embedded database, and Maven is the latest version of the Maven. So if you see the configuration, so I have already created this project from Spring Boot initializer. So from there, like you guys can also create the project only. Uh, uh, like it's a very easy for creating the project from the Spring Boot initializer. If you guys are not aware of it, like how to create the Spring Boot project from this particular website, so go through the one of my tutorial already available. I will share the link in the description section so that you guys can get idea how we can create the project. So now if we come to this dependency wise, so for creating these reactive applications, I need to use like this starter data R2DBC, these dependencies. Starter web, basically this is not required. Basically this is not required Spring Boot starter web, because this is Spring Boot starter web flux basically we can need. This is basically used to like do all those things building the reactive applications. This is basically need. And this is starter web. Basically this is also need because for creating the controller and all those things, and also we need to use the embedded tomcat, so all those things we can get from over here. DevTools is needed just to real-time loading all those things. This is the in-memory database. This is the R2DBC that basically we are going to use the Spring Data R2DBC, and these are we can ignore actually for the time being. So these are the dependencies that basically we are going to use over here technologies wise. So this is the kind of dependency management tool. Now so this is the dependencies. So now for connecting with the like databases, we need to provide some like properties file so that it will connect with the H2 database. So we need to configure like what is the URL for connecting with the uh, H2 database. So for that we need to use this property spring dot r2dbc dot r2dbc dot URL equals to r2dbc colon h2 colon mem. Here basically we need to provide the database name, so we can provide something like reactive applications. Okay, so this is the database name we need to provide over here. There is a basically another properties which is for enabling the R2DBC repositories, like something like spring.data.repositories.enable, but by default is already this enabled. So here basically we're going to use, so by default it is true, so that's why we're not going to use this one. If we want to disable this one, then we can use this one, but as it is default one, so we don't need to use this one. Okay, so this is the another property, but it is not required. Another things in a whenever you're going to create any application, so as you can see in a main file, actually you can see there is a Spring Boot application annotations. So this is basically taken care of all the things. So here we can use the another annotation like enable R2DBC repositories, but this is already like supported, so that's why we don't need this one, this annotation. So we can either use or means basically we uh, don't need to use this one. So next basically we are going to create one um, like one entities that will basically talk with the databases, means it will be represent kind of whatever the entities or table we are going to create in the database, so that is over there. So for example, for us we can create any post or something like that, anything table for the demo purpose I'm just creating. So here basically it will have some parameters or fields we can say, for example long id or private long id, then private string title. Okay, and we can means keep lot of things over here, something like private string description or comment, something like that. And this will be a like represent the primary key, so it will be a treated as the id. Okay, so that actually we need to mention over here, and then we can provide some getter and setter so that we can use this. As we are using the lombok, so we don't need to write the getter and setter manually for those things, so it will be automatically handled by the lombok, so that we don't need to write the those boilerplate code. Okay, so this is the done, and then next basically we need to create the repository to interact with this post from the H2 databases, and we can create the one repository package for that, so that we can and this interface basically it will extend R2DBC repository, as it is a Spring Data Reactive, so that's why Reactive CRUD repository, right? So means basically we can simply see for plain data JPA we are using the JPA CRUD repository, but as we are going to use the uh, reactive kind of program. So for that, basically, we are going to extend the R2DBC repository. Okay. So we are going to create one package over here. So let me create one interface for that, like post repository. Okay. And it will extend R2DBC repository, this one. Okay. And here basically we are going to use this particular entity, and ID is long. Okay. And here basically we are going to use those like means methods like find by ID, same means for saving the data, for updating those query we are going to write over here. So now the repository creation is done, and the next basically this reactive CRUD repository basically supports save, find by ID, find all, count, delete, and then delete all those things. If we need any kind of the custom operations, so then basically we need to write our own queries. So that is also very easy. So that also we can do over here. Now we are going to write the one service that will basically responsible to talking with the repository for different types of functionalities. So for example, let's create post service. So for that uh, okay, we can create another post service. Okay. And the package we can create service. Okay. Okay, so post service, and it will be annotated with the @service annotation. Okay. And here basically we are going to create for example find all. Okay. So it will basically fetch all the details from the database. So for that we need to use this post repository over here. Like we need to inject this auto private, then post repository, then post. Okay. Then using this we can use this post repository dot find all. Okay. So as you can see, it is basically if we use the return over here, so that it will return all the data. So as you can see, it's a return of, okay, means we need to use the public. Okay, so it is returning the flux. Okay, this is the things that we can use in the reactive, because in a means if we are going to use non-async non-reactive programs over there, instead of flux it will be a list, means list of data. But so instead of that it will be a means flux actually. So the difference is that uh, uh, when basically we use this find all basically, or get all, we use this repository that we created, so it will return more than one record basically. So that's why the data is wrapped in a flux. Okay, if we are going to return the one data, so in that case we are going to use the mono. So this is the term that we can use for this one. So if you see, you can also see the details over here, like if you click over here, so you can get the details like what it will do. Okay, so you can get all the details from here, like instead of list we are going to use this flux. So this is the kind of for doing the reactive kind of program. Okay, it is intended to be used implementation and return types. Input parameters should keep as raw. uh, okay, so this is the things for this basically flux. And as we are going to also use the find by ID, so let's write this one, find by ID, find by find by ID. So here basically we need to take one parameter as input, the ID. So based on that ID basically we are going to fetch the data from the database, and instead of find all we are going to use the find by ID, this ID. Okay, and this long ID we need to pass. So as you can see, it will be return of mono instead of flux. So for the single data, basically it will be use the mono, and for the list it will use as a flux. Okay, so let's see at these two one how it is working. And for like if we are going to save the data, so that is also similar kind of thing, something like repository, and here basically we're going to use the save, and here instead of this we are going to use this post. Okay, and here we're going to use the save this entity, so it will be a post. And if we return, so it will also return the single entity, whatever the data we are inserting over into the database, the same data will be returned. So this will be also a single entity. So this is the kind of the, if we are going to, there is another like delete all those things, so it will be a void. So in this case the return type will be mono of void. So as you can see over here, like if we are going to use the find all, then it's using the flux of post. That means if it's having the multiple post in a database, then it will return list of kind of things. So that's why it's the flux. If it is a single, as you can see for the find by ID, so this is a single, so that's why it's a mono. And for delete, if you are using like something like this, let me copy paste this one. So instead of delete by ID, so here basically it will take one input, something like this long by ID, and here it will be delete uh, by ID. Okay, and here we are going to use the ID. So as you can see, it will be a return type of this mono of void, because delete will return thing, but it will be a mono. That means single data. So that's I was talking about. So that means service layer wise done. Now we are going to create one controller class that basically will talk with the service layer. So for that we can create another package over here. Type name is empty. Okay, here we can see the post controller. Okay, so controller is creation is done. So as you know, we need to use this annotation like rest controller, and another is the request mapping. Okay, slash API. So as you know that we are using the Web Flux application, so that's why we need to use this annotation like Spring Web Flux, enable Web Flux. Actually it's a enable Web Flux annotation. So this will basically enable this asynchronous kind of thing, and so this is the basically used to for enabling those things. And like this enable web flux basically it's enabled to support for reactive web applications using the Spring Web Flux like these APIs. So that is the one thing that we need to use over here. So now as you can see, like if we are going to use those methods, so here basically we need to auto the post services, so that we can use over here. And then basically we are going to use one find all method, which is basically we call those like methods, find all methods from over there. So let me create those things like public. The return type will be a flux of post. Okay, then find all post. Okay, so this is the thing, and it will return actually that service and then find all. Okay, and we can map this with this one, as it will be a get method, so find all. And we can also provide another thing, the response status of this method, so it's a kind of okay. So this is the one method that we can use for fetching all the data. Next we can use this instead of find all post, here we can use the find by ID. Find by ID, and here it will take one path variable. So that parameter we can take either using the path variable, or either we can use the request param. So that both we can do. So I'm using the like path variable. So find by ID, and here basically it will be, instead of find all, it will be a find by ID, and this particular ID basically we are going to pass over here. Okay, so this is the thing, and the flux, it will be a return type the mono. So this two is done now. Next, basically, if we are going to save the data, so for that basically we are going to use another method. We need to write something like create post. Okay, and it will be take as a request body of this post attribute. Post actually post, this is the request body that it is taking, and then it will basically return of this. We need to use the save method from this service layer. So as we have created all the method like find all, find by ID, and save is also there, so we need to use pass this post this object. Okay, so that means this is a, it will return all the data. It will return find by ID, and it will save the data as it is a post mapping, because we are going to save those data. So we need to annotate with as a post mapping instead of get. Okay, so these are the things. And enable web flux, basically we are going to not going to use it over here. We are going to use these things or we can either over here or in a main application level, here. Okay, here also we can use that. We can use those things over here. So this is done now. Next, basically, we are going to create one schema, so that once the applications will run, and then it will create the database for us. So for that, this is the schema basically that we are going to use. Like this post we need to create, and the ID is the not null is auto increment, then title, then comment. These are the field basically. If you see this one, this ID, title, and the comment, ID is the primary key, so that's why it's mentioned the primary key is the ID. So this schema is basically created. So now once the applications will run, then we need to it will create the first of table, then we need to over there. So for that, for creating those things, we need to create one bin over here, like in here basically in the main here. So let me show you how it will be look like. And here basically we introduce this R2DBC connection in the resource database popular. So this is the this bin basically we are going to use it over here, so that it will create the database creations for us. So here you can see that we have provided the resource path, the schema.sql that we have under in the resource folder. So from here it will take this one, and then accordingly it will create the database for us. Okay, so that means application wise it is ready now. So that now we are going to check from the postman that we are going to getting the response or not. As you know, it is a Spring Boot reactive applications that is basically enable us to asynchronously get the data without blocking all those things. So this is the benefit for this one. So now if we run these applications, we run this application and check from the postman. Okay, so let run these applications, and then we can check from the postman. So let me start this application so that we can check from the postman. So I've started. Let's see, is it start? Okay, let me use this properties in a bin so that it can override those things. Okay, let me close this one. Then from the properties file, let me use this one. Okay, let's try this one again. Let's try to run the application again. Let's see. Okay, invalid. Okay, so it is basically showing, so we need to use this one, else it will give us the exception. Okay, now let's start. Okay, now it is saying this XML enable. Okay, this enable web message and web flux. Okay, both are cannot be used together. Okay, I understand. So in the POM file, as you remember, Initially I was saying this is required, but as we are using this Spring Boot Starter Web Flux, so this is for the used for the reactive application, and this is for the like web application. So that may rest particularly thing, but this is basically used for the reactive application. So this is basically not needed. Okay, so that's why we are getting these issues. So let me remove this one from here over here so that it will take all those properties from the web flux one. Let me update this maven file, maven project, so that it will take the latest dependencies. Okay, it's done now. Let's start the application. It will work now. Okay, as you can see, the live reload server is started, net is started on this port 88. That means this application is started now. Now we are going to like check those. We will try to access those APIs from over here, like find all, find by ID, and then create. Okay, so at the initial phase it doesn't have any data, so if we click this one or click this, it will doesn't return anything. Okay, so let's try to find all first. So it will give us the empty records as you can see, but we are getting the 200, right? So that means it doesn't have any record, so we need to create the first. So for that I have used this one API, this API, like as you can see over here, this create. Okay, and it's having a title and comment, and ID I'm not passing over here as it will be a auto generated ID. So that's why whenever it will insert data into the database, then it will automatically create the ID, something like that. Okay, so this ID is auto generated. Okay, if I click the second time, like test one or test one here, so you can see the ID is 2. That means it will be auto generated. If I click again, so ID is 3. Okay, so this ID is auto generated, so that's why we're not passing over there. Now if we use this find all, okay, so you can see the ID, then 1 2 3 three records over there, so 3 is returned by this service. We can create another API which is basically find by ID, so that also we can use. So instead of find all, basically we can use find by ID, and then here basically we can pass the like path variable as a path variable 1, so it will give us the record for the 1. Instead of 1, if we give the 2, then it will give us the 2. If I give the 4, then as it is not over there, so it doesn't return anything. Okay, because we don't have any data, but we are getting the 200, means connectivity is done. So in this way basically we can create the reactive applications using Spring Boot Web Flux. So definitely like it's a just basic kind of thing, like how we're going to uh, create the basic applications, reactive applications, CRUD operations kind of thing using this. So we are using this Spring Boot Web Flux. It's designed to leverage the reactive programming for building these web applications, providing a non-blocking and event-driven architecture. Right? It supports both basically traditional sublet based as well as the fully reactive application that can run on the native and popular event-driven applications framework. It is basically improve the scalability and performance resource. It will improve the utilizations of the resources. We can easily integrate this with other reactive libraries, right? As you know, for using this web flux, basically in a POM file, we are using this one for using this one like this starter web flux. Okay, so this is basically responsible to enabling the web flux, and also as you can see over here, for that this enable web flux is needed. So these are the few things that we need to follow. I've already explained in this tutorial. Still, like if you guys have anything, please drop me a comment so that I can check, and I'll go through those things, and I'll try to clear those things. And that's all actually about this tutorial. I will definitely try to, if you guys have anything, please put those in comments so that I will try and to create a next tutorial about this web flux one. So that's all for this reactive applications using Spring Boot or Flux. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.